general. So the Transportation Incentive Program and the Group Booking Program, the overall partnership supports the Marriott Westlake with increased visitors and tourism and maximizing the economic benefits hotel brings to the town. The transportation portion is crucial to us being able to continue to drive business to our hotels and into Westlake. Overall, our competition has larger demands, drivers right in their backyard, and that's something that we strive for, like the Entrada project. So the competition has South Lake Town Square, DFW, Airport, Grapevine Mills Mall, etc. And so the transportation allow us an opportunity to be able to transport our guests to these destinations, and that's why that particular portion of the transportation is critical for us. The second piece is the group incentive. It's a powerful tool for our sales team to deliver against the competition with booking not only new business but multiple year and repeat business. The group component also includes a catering piece of business, and it produces programs such as the Northeast Leadership Forum, which over 300 executives and business leaders attended the forum all over the Metroplex. So those type of opportunities for us to drive additional business and awareness into the town is crucial to this particular program. And so I'm here tonight specifically to request a contribution of the group booking incentive and request additional funds for both transportation and the group booking incentive.
All right, and this is funded through the hotel motel tax. This is basically a recapture of it, right?
Absolutely.
We've renewed this how many years now?
Oh, I've been here 2 years, and so I've been able to present it for the last 2 years, but I think the program has been around
Amber
for
speaking up
quite
behind
a few years.
It's over 10 years, I believe, since 2010 is when it started, I believe, as I went back into records. So
And
it's
this
over
is to
10
make
years.
the Marriott more competitive with surrounding hotels to ensure people can get in and out of the hotel, right?
Absolutely.
So the bus service, right?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Is it from the airport? Is it?
It's from the airport, DFW Airport, and then the transportation piece provides transportation not only to our guests but our residents through within a 5-mile radius.
Is this also going to fund your new wing you're going to put on?
I hope so.
Reggie, would you share the slide about the ROI and tax revenue from this program?
Yes. So you have the packet. Let me go ahead and get to the point that. I had a clarification on this particular slide. So where it says within the 25,000 of available funds, which we're requesting an additional 25 for a total of 50,000 in funds, we generate over $360,000 in hotel revenue. And so the tax off of that revenue is what would go to the town. So the $24,000 note at the bottom where it says tax revenue, it should have just said revenue. So for every $1,000 of funds used generates approximately $24,000 in total additional revenue. So for like in 2019, which was our peak year, where we were able to utilize some of those funds to generate revenue, our total tax contribution, with and without fund usage, was approximately close to $900,000.
I mean, okay, so I understand what you're trying to say here. For every 1,000 we give you, you're generating 24,000. We'd argue for every 24,000 in taxes we're receiving, we're giving back 1. I mean, it's a different way to look at the same thing, right?
Yes.
So what we're trying to understand here, so at the moment for transportation, we're generally reimbursing up to 80,000. Do you want to increase that to 100? At the moment for group booking, we reimburse up to 25. You want to increase that up to 50. So on the occupancy side, I think you were showing on one of your previous slides, in 2022, there was revenue about 363, just the last slide you're on, about 363,000. And of this, you want to increase total takings to about 150, so about 41% of our tax would be going back to the Marriott, basically, using those numbers. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, 2023 forecast year end is about 55% occupancy, 54.5% occupancy at the moment.
So, okay, so you're asking us to increase the rebate of up to 41% of our tax takings back to the Marriott on this occupancy tax. What I'm trying to understand is, like, there's no real economic case in this whole presentation. I understand you have transportation. I understand that's attractive to people coming in from the airport. But the way this presentation reads is we give you $1, you turn it into 24 because you're providing a service that's attracting people into Westlake. Westlake's a wonderful town. We've lived here for 10 years. We have no intention of leaving, but it's not a holiday destination. And so what we got to try to analyze here is what's drawing people to Westlake and what is Marriott actually doing to incrementally increase those tax dollars for us. I'm not seeing that in the presentation. So I understand you write Westlake on the side of the buses. I understand you provide a transportation service. But can you point to where these occupants, these residents who are staying in the hotel are coming from? Because I can't imagine Marriott's bringing them in and saying, hey, Westlake's the place you want to come on vacation. So I'm thinking this is where in-laws are not necessarily welcome in the house, or perhaps there's overflow from Deloitte and they need extra capacity. And so there's benefits that Westlake brings to the Marriott that's trying to help out. And we look at some of your occupancy. I think it's right here. Your occupancy rate for 2022 is 54.5. Next year, occupancy rate 54.5. So what's the plan to increase that? I mean, we give you $1. What are you doing with that $1? Like, where's this going?
Right. It is allowing us the opportunity to continue to book business, and it is not just overflow from Deloitte or local residents. It's large pieces of group business and catering business that we book. As I mentioned, the Northeast Leadership Forum was one of those particular programs where we had over 300 attendees at that. But from that, we were able to book additional business just by those individuals coming and visiting the Marriott and seeing what we have to offer.
But this is one of the other key changes. You want to move from additional business to all business. Mm-hmm. So this is no longer about the incremental dollar. It's about a portion of all dollars. So that's another big change. If I'm correct, this is what is being
That's correct.
Yeah.
Here's what I've seen. Do you know the market cap of Marriott?
I do not know the market cap of Marriott.
$51 billion.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they need our money. And then secondly, the average hotel occupancy is 67%. So the Marriott, is underperforming on a very consistent basis. But yet you want us to give you more money for an underperforming property, and you want us to give you more money to a $51 billion corporation.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not necessarily looking at Marriott as a whole, as a $51 billion corporation. It's looking at the Marriott Westlake and what the contributions are to the town of Westlake.
Maybe one of these Marriotts that are at 90% occupancy can rev share back to you to help pull y'all up. I just don't see any financial benefit at all for our city to help a $51 billion corporation as an underperforming property.
Each hotel is individually owned and operated. This is a managed by Marriott hotel. It's not like a franchise.
I understand.
Absolutely.
85% of hotels.
Absolutely. So each hotel within itself is an entity.
So the person
separate.
that owns this hotel or the management company that does, they should want to turn these numbers around more so than anything. But I feel like you're coming to us to double down on a handout, but the performance hasn't been here. I mean, this is like a kid spending his allowance money and then wanting double the allowance money, but it hadn't performed.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily wholly based upon the performance. One of the things in my presentation, which hopefully you had an opportunity to look at, there's competition in the market that wasn't there before. If you go back to 2019, as I mentioned early on in my presentation, we're close to $1 million in contribution based upon the occupancy. Looking at 2020, we just came out of a pandemic. We're ramping up, and as we ramp up, we've also added new product to the market. And so what you see here with our 54% occupancy, that's a ramp up and a ramp up with additional supply in the market.
No, we see that, but the numbers are still below pre-COVID, right? And so you've now got another 5 hotels in the immediate area that's now in competition. And what we as a council have to look at is what's Westlake going to look like in future years. And you may have had benefit of sitting in some of these council meetings. You may see plans for future hotels in Westlake itself. And so are we creating a precedent where, if we're kicking back 40+% of our tax takings back to each hotel group, I mean, it gets to a point where hotels are not as economical as they could be for the town. And so we need to think about this on a competitive landscape. And, what works for Marriott, is that going to have to work for everybody else? So I think that's something, critical. And, one of the things I did look up before we came in today is, what the hotel reviews look like. And lobby's beautiful. It's a gorgeous hotel. But, it's got a 3.5-star rating online. And one of the criticisms is that the rooms have not been renovated or kept in keeping with the main communal areas. And so if we're trying to help you guys, draw in additional revenues and share in the tax takings, I feel like we have to be in alignment here. So give by us, but give by Marriott. And so, I think that's something we really need to think about collectively, of collaborating. Just out of curiosity, on the transportation, what was the transportation spend, for example, this year, year to date, or last year?
Oh, I don't have that number with
Okay,
me, but
because I'm
produce
just
it.
curious to see what 80,000 does towards that total transportation cost. How much of that, are we actually? One of the things I also noticed in here is there's a quarterly report that's required to be prepared, which, if you look through some of the agenda items in there, it's supposed to talk about total funds spent to date by the Marriott for activity and purposes set out in section 4.1, which is on a separate page. It's supposed to talk about number of room nights generated, a brief description of the marketing and sales efforts made during the reporting period, the number of bus transportation trips, et cetera, et cetera. Is that a report that is being delivered generally each quarter to the town?
That's correct.
Okay, I don't think we have seen it so far, but I think having an analysis where we could review this.
Who has the report?
Jared usually handles all this. I need to go look forward and track it down.
Okay. So I'd like to see the report.
Yeah.
I'd like to. Anyone have rough numbers of number of people who gets transported?
Okay.
Maybe kind of nice to know.
Yeah.
So, and then, sorry to interrupt you. Did I interrupt you?
Yeah, not interrupted at all.
On the hotel motel tax, what other uses could be used for it other than hotel motel? For this motel, could it be used for marketing?
I mean, we have it, excuse me, sir. We have it in the Visitors Association Fund, so we do fund a portion of payroll out of that fund for those internal employees that are contributing. And we also have the tree lighting ceremony and our car show. So there's other things that come out of that fund that hotel motel tax goes towards.
Go ahead.
So we would conceivably have to eliminate programs to give Marriott money or
No.
cut back.
Not necessarily. Again, these incentives are to help Marriott and to incentivize Marriott to bring more business to the town, which would therefore increase our sales tax dollars.
But they haven't.
We want this to be a win-win, but I think Tim and I are like singing from the same song sheet. We just want to see the economic case, and
Right.
if this is a win-win, this is an easy.
So Reggie, for instance, your slide, it turns out, I'm disappointed that the slide is inaccurate, that the number of dollars that we put into the program does not reflect how much tax revenue we get back. So, that slide you showed, it's a couple slides after this one. It sounds like you made a mistake in the amount of tax revenue.
Yeah.
So that's troubling, because we need to know that we have ROI with this program, is what the bottom line is.
Yeah, correct. So what I could do is I can present back to you
Sure. So you want to
information I
table it and
believe.
bring it back?
Yeah, information I believe
Sure.
you already have, but I will
No,
present
that would be
that
great.
over to you
I
so
think
that
it'd be
you
a very
can
good
have
idea.
it.
And Reggie,
Because-
one other thing, I mean,
Yep.
most cities get 2 cents of sales tax. We get 1. So, like, if someone else is preparing this for Grapevine, South Lake, or whatever, just 50% less for us because we put a penny back to property tax.
Yeah.
So that makes
yeah.
it a lot more difficult, too.
Yeah. And again, visitors, again, try to produce, different ancillary spends throughout the town of Westlake. And so, those numbers we cannot account for. But we propose that, those individuals do partake in, venues within Westlake.
There's
So,
only a few choices, so they might be going to South Lake.
well, correct,
That's true,
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll table and bring it back for the January, when is this, is there a renewal for this coming up here?
The renewal has passed.
Yes.
It was in October, and so we are bringing it forward to you now because it has lapsed.
Okay, well, that's
We
not a
need
good
to bring
sign.
it back.
We'll bring it back in January.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
we need to, yeah.
Thank you,
Well,
Reggie.
I appreciate it, and definitely I'll follow up with, someone could send me specifically what you're looking for, so I can go ahead and get that for you.
I appreciate it, we will.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.
All right. Item number 16, consider approving Resolution 22-68, authorizing the mayor to approve a proposal with B&R Utility Construction to install a water line on Pearson Road in the amount not to exceed $25,000. Take appropriate action.
Mayor and council, this is a follow-up item from November 14th. So we wanted to bring back kind of with some more explanation of what this project included and the location of the project. So again, we're looking for the approval of the bid for an 8-inch water line extension on Pearson Road to complete a water loop for us. And where is that location? So the top of the map, you have Dove Road. The blue lines represent current water lines that are in place. As you move to the bottom of the map, you see a red line. That is where the new line would be extended to Timber Ridge. And so if you notice, it crosses the road, and that is actually in the city of Keller. And then we have 4 residents on the opposite side that is in the town of Westlake. So that gives you kind of the general location. And then this is kind of a street view shot.
Troy,
So-
I'm sorry, do you mind just going back one slide? Sure. The blue lines at the bottom, is that Westlake water lines, or is that Keller?
That's a Westlake water line.
Those are Westlake water lines.
That is correct.
But they run through Keller.
That is correct.
Okay.
So when that water line comes to Timber Ridge and Pearson Lane and then kind of goes down, it goes all the way to Aspen Lane, and it collects or services everything down Aspen Lane and into Vaquero. And then in the opposite direction, if you're on Timber Ridge and you go to the left of the map, that loops back to Pagebrook Farms, or Pagebrook. And so by extending this, you're creating a loop, and then that's best practices, so you can keep the water flow flowing, and you don't have a dead-end line, and it helps with the quality of water
And so
for not only
I-
the residents along Pearson, but just in that looped area as well.
So the whole, this is not just for those 4 homes, it's for the whole system.
Correct.
And so there's a
Correct.
cost every year of if you have a dead-end line, it creates calcium buildup and algae bacteria
Right.
buildup.
Your residuals drop.
Yeah,
You
and
got
they all build up down there, and they cause issues with odor and stuff like that. So
Right, and-
by eliminating them, you're improving the whole system, and so the cost is not for the 4 homes, but rather than the whole system.
Correct. And to prevent all that from happening, you flush on a regular basis when you have a dead-end line as well, to prevent some of that.
Right. So I think there are a couple of issues or questions we had raised in previous council. One is understanding this schematic. So I think this helps to clarify how you're closing the loop. And I guess what you're saying is the 4 homes that would just as a byproduct connect are they're I assume they're right next to this red line. This new
Correct. They're right
water.
across the street. They're on the east side of the road.
Okay.
Which are currently being served by Keller.
Okay. So the second thing we asked for, I think Jared had told us that there was a written request by Keller for us to do
Yes.
this.
So when we started talking about the extension of this line, we knew it had to go in Keller because on the Westlake side, we were putting a force main in for Westlake Ranch. And so there wasn't any room there. And so when we brought that to Keller's attention to get the approval to do that, they shot us an email about around the March timeframe. The public director over at Keller requested that we take those 4 customers that are in Westlake and make them on.
But it's just a request, just for clarity. It's not a requirement that we necessarily take on these 4 homes.
I wouldn't say it's a requirement.
Okay.
They want to eliminate their dead-end line, and they would abandon that line that feeds those current folks. So that was their request. So the reason
They're
why-
abandoning the line?
That's what they want to do from a long-term perspective.
Okay.
Because right there where that red line bends across the road is where that Keller line stops. And they want to pull that line back and abandon it up to Timber Ridge because they can service all their customers from Timber Ridge.
So we're being collegial and allowing them to close their circuit, eliminate a dead end on their end too.
That is correct.
So you're saying they have a dead end that goes up along that red line?
So right where that line bends across.
Yeah,
Their water line stops right there.
okay,
And it services the 4 homes on the west side of Pearson.
okay.
Okay? If we extend our line and create our loop, then we would bore under the road and service those 4 homes.
So these 2 blue lines at the bottom left-hand side are Westlake water lines.
Correct.
Where do they go? Are they currently part of the broader Westlake water
Yes.
loop?
So the ones that run parallel to Timber Ridge,
Yeah,
they cut through and go and service Pagebrook,
Okay.
which then comes out on
I
Dove
see.
Road.
Got it.
Then they
Okay.
also, on the bottom half, they go to Aspen Lane, service everything in Aspen Lane, and then cut through Vaquero.
Okay.
So that creates that loop that is best practices
So
to do.
the logistics, what you're saying on closing the loop, what the mayor is saying logistically about flushing pipes, creating, bacteria buildup, whatever it may be, all makes sense. I think my one concern last time we spoke was the economic case for doing this.
Sure.
And I want to make 2 observations, and then we can decide, what everyone wants to do. The cost of this is about $96,000. I think it was like 86 plus
Correct.
contingency.
With contingency.
You've said here, and I appreciate you pulling these numbers. You're saying there's a real loss of 43,000, but I have the impression that's not what this project's going to save.
Correct.
Right. So do we know
So-
specifically what's costing us with this particular issue?
We do not. So that 1 million gallons loss is typically every community loses water.
Okay.
Either through a major line break, or if they're fighting fires, they're turning on that fire hydrant and it's not metered.
Right.
There could be leaks anywhere in the system. It could be a valve, it could be underground, it could be leaking for months before it's ever found.
So the flushing aspect of it, however,
Mm-hmm.
do we know what that's costing us?
We
Deal
could-
with the dead end.
We could, not this particular one, no.
Okay.
No, because again, we do it as all of our flushing occurs monthly. And that's
Okay.
based on how much rainfall. It's based on, if it's in the summer, everybody's using irrigation, we don't do as much flushing.
But if we close the loop, is it to prevent us having to flush the pipes going forward, or is
Yes, it will.
Completely.
Yes,
Okay.
for
And
this particular area.
just for this area.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
But there's other areas we'd still have to do this.
Yes, we still have dead ends around town.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes you just can't prevent them. And until you can close those loops, and on every municipality, there's a list of dead ends. And as you either go through development, then that's where you make your connections.
Okay.
As well.
And so the revenue for each, there's 4 homes, but it's probably $3,000 in revenue for each home for a year. Or for water.
Roughly, give or take, what size meter they
Yeah,
have,
and
yes.
so you're looking 12,000-ish
Right.
for revenue-wise, and probably a couple thousand in cost per
Right.
year.
So for your utilities, whether it's sewer or water, there's not a municipality that will make money off that.
Right.
It's not a money maker.
Right.
You're providing a service. And so those lines that are put in are going to outcost what we have.
So
Or-
okay, I feel like we're moving to where we need to be, but I think the last observation is you've noted here there's a $7.7 million balance in the utility fund.
Correct.
Right. And I just want to observe that, as of this year, we added an additional $14.9 million of debt
Correct.
to the utility fund.
Correct.
So just to be abundantly clear, we took the utility fund from $3.1 million in debt to just over $18 million in debt, and that was approved this last May in council. It was last year's May council that approved that massive, massive increase in debt in the utility fund.
Sure.
And so my biggest issue is just putting another $100,000 expense through what has already got a hefty debt load. And this is why this has taken 2 attempts to come through council, is to make sure we understand the logistics, that this is really a must-have project, and that, we understand what the economic case is. And I think what we're saying is the logistics outweigh the economics. But I just, again, I wanted to bring attention to this because this was a massive sea change on the utility fund
Right.
in the last 12 months.
So based on the rate studies that we do every year, so that debt that was taken out to pay off that loan that was taken out in 2000.
Yeah.
And so it accounts for that.
Right.
And so that's spread
I
over
completely understand.
several years. And so the
But
seven.
that goes to the water rates though, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that 7.7 million is, accounts for that debt.
I
and so-
understand,
Yeah.
because it's all projected out. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's gonna, in fact, it's gonna run for another 25 years, and then it goes to 47 or 48. So this is,
So on the resolution, though, it says not to exceed 25,000, but the total cost of the project's 97.
The not to exceed portion of it is if we have to do a change order, that I'm not bringing a change order to you guys for 5,000, 10,000,
So
that's
it's
everything.
97, but it's authorizing up to 130, basically, we're at 125. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
it is just authorizing to
121.
stay within that 96,000. I mean, that is the budget for the project
Okay.
with that contingency. And so within that project, if the contractor comes to me and says, well, this valve is not available, and we have to purchase this one, and it may cost us an extra $2 to $3 grand to do that, we use the contingency to offset that cost, and I don't have to bring that back to the council for approval. That's what that statement is saying about the 25,000. It's not 96,000 plus another 25. It's staying within that budget.
okay.
All right, any more questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve? And first, anyone?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, motion carries. All right,
Thank you.
okay. Let's see, take action from executive session, there's no items. Council recap, staff direction. Let's see, I don't think we have any due outs to staff, other on B, we have,
Yeah, so in the workshop session, Mayor, what we have is we're going to get, some solid pricing on the secondary building and the A&S and PYP buildings. We're going to look at the area in front of the pond as, how that area could be utilized potentially. We're going to go back and look at possibly purchasing used portables and get some pricing associated with that. Making sure AC units, do they have to be on the walls or could they be separate from the buildings? Also look at additional window options as it relates to the modular buildings. Ron's going to rework Ordinance 958, the tree ordinance. And then I believe with the resident policy and the admissions policy, we're going to bring another draft back. But I had one question as it relates to that. David, I know you had quite a few changes. Is that something you want to get to
For which one?
for the policy?
I'd love to, yeah, probably want to clarify a number of points, because I think, and I know you said there's no changes made, changes are being made, so I think it's important to clarify what is the general direction of policy we want this to go. So whatever the most efficient way to do this, I would like to add some more input, though, to it.
So would that be a meeting with Mr. Wilson to kind of go specifically with that?
That would be fine.
Okay.
That would be easy to do.
Okay. And then we will do some research as it relates to the Marriott quarterly report and get you guys some summaries associated with that and bring that back at the January 30th meeting.
sure. All right, let's go on. Do we miss anything on that, guys? Anyone notice anything? No? All right, future agenda items, we have nothing coming up immediately. Adjournment. Thank you very much, thanks for coming.
Thank you.